Biden's climate change program is in danger because of stalled coastal wind power projects. President Joe Biden's most significant energy ambitions are in jeopardy due to a bleak financial prognosis for the nation's offshore wind power industry. By the end of the decade, the administration expects offshore wind turbines to generate at least enough electricity for 10 million American homes. Energy corporations have struggled to finance their projects throughout the Northeast, the hub of the developing sector, and have gone hand-in-hand to governors and utility regulators begging for additional money so they can begin constructing the turbines they have already committed to delivering. The requests from the energy companies have sparked anger in state legislatures and among a populace weary of already rising electricity prices. But neither Biden nor two of the country's most environmentally conscious Democratic governors, Kathy Hochul of New York and Phil Murphy of New Jersey, can hope to achieve their climate change targets without a significant increase in offshore wind capacity. "This is a pretty fragile time in the offshore wind industry," said Molly Morris, president of Equinor Wind US, which is developing 3 projects to serve New York. Many industry officials and green energy supporters describe 2023 as a crossroads. With the 2024 election bearing down on them, offshore wind advocates are trying to shore up as many projects as they can, in case Republicans hostile to the industry, like Donald Trump, retake Washington. "We cannot meet our goals without offshore wind advancing," said Julie Tai, president of the New York League of Conservation Voters. "Given the length of time it takes to do permitting, we certainly cannot step backwards and lose these wind farms." Offshore wind takes a combination of state and federal green lights to work, plus an immense amount of capital, billions of dollars. Companies lease swaths of the ocean from the federal government and finance their projects by getting states to agree to buy the power from the projects, which are built in part with generous federal tax subsidies. Federal, state and local permits all have to be secured to make the projects a reality, which gives opponents numerous chances to stall or kill projects. Democrats, in particular, see a virtuous cycle developing: clean energy, union jobs and American manufacturing as massive construction projects drum up domestic manufacturing orders. But to see the virtuous cycle, the industry needs to get the first wave of offshore wind projects over the finish line. If you don't get your first project done, it's hard to imagine getting your second, third, 9th, 15th project done, said Tim Sullivan, the CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. So far, federal regulators have only approved 3 utility-scale projects nationwide. Only 7 offshore wind turbines are producing power and just 2 of the larger projects are truly under construction. Offshore wind companies, state policymakers and boosters herald the start of work on those large-scale projects: South Fork northeast of the tip of Long Island and Vineyard Wind south of Martha's Vineyard, as a key turning point for the industry. "There are tangible things happening right now. You see physical steel in the water," said Damien Bednars, managing director at Attentive Energy, a subsidiary of French energy giant Total Energies, which holds a lease for a tract of the Atlantic Ocean but hasn't secured a contract to build a project. States in the Northeast moved early to set clean energy targets. Companies leased swaths of the ocean floor to help meet those goals. New Jersey aims to get 100% of its power from clean energy sources by 2035, the most aggressive goal of any large state. Murphy recently signed legislation to save what would be New Jersey's first offshore wind farm from financial uncertainty. The 1.1 gigawatt Ocean Wind 1 project includes 98 offshore wind turbines about 15 miles off the southern coast of New Jersey. The company has committed to invest $695 million in New Jersey as part of the project. The law allows Ørsted, the project's developer, to take advantage of new federal tax incentives. Without the deal to help Ørsted in New Jersey, the company and Murphy administration officials said, the wind farm would not be built and that would kneecap the state's efforts to jumpstart a major new domestic industry. But the law passed, thanks to an odd coalition that at one point included the leader of the state Senate's Republicans. However, a second major project is still facing significant financial uncertainty. The new law doesn't help Atlantic Shores, which is a joint venture of Shell and French energy company EDF. The company will need to decide next year if it proceeds with the project, but without more money from the state it won't happen, according to the company's CEO Joris Veldhoven. "We simply don't have an investable project," Veldhoven said in an interview earlier this month. Atlantic Shores says its costs have gone up 30% since the project was approved by the state in 2021. It faces the same rising costs that other offshore wind projects do. Inflation is up, the cost of steel has soared since the pandemic, interest rates are higher and the labor market is tighter. Paradoxically, the war in Ukraine made clear how important domestic energy is while at the same time driving up the costs to produce it. New Jersey's projects are not outliers. Companies with contracts to supply Massachusetts are scrapping their plans, paying penalties to terminate agreements that are no longer profitable. Rhode Island's utility isn't moving forward with a potential second offshore wind project after costs were higher than expected. "I feel like we have these moments of near-death and resuscitation every week," said Chris Olath, a close industry observer who leads the University of Delaware's Special Initiative on Offshore Wind. In New York, Equinor and Ørsted petitioned the state for bigger payments for their projects in June. The subsidies will ultimately be paid by ratepayers through their electricity bills once the projects begin producing energy. Ørsted, building in New York with an assist from Eversource, requested an inflation adjustment and other concessions for its project there. Equinor, the Norwegian energy giant, is also seeking a higher price for its 3 New York projects, which BP is a partner on.